Mental Health Hour on Love Bay Afrobeat Music and Talk Radio. I'm your host, Felicia Fishoff, registered psychotherapist and founder of Rooted in Resilience Psychotherapy and Wellness. And I'm so glad you're here with us tonight. Tonight's episode is part of the Insight Hour, where we take a deeper look at the conversations that often go unseen, but deeply impact our mental health and everyday lives. We're diving into a powerful and often overlooked topic: the weight of care, dementia, neurodivergence, and the hidden toll of caregiving. Caregiving is often framed as love, as duty, as something we're just supposed to do. But what we don't talk about enough is the cost, emotionally, mentally, financially, and even in terms of identity. Tonight, we're unpacking what it really means to carry that responsibility, especially for those supporting loved ones living with dementia and those who are neurodivergent, recognizing that neurodivergence exists across a wide spectrum of experiences and needs. I'm joined by an incredible guest, Jermaine Morrison, a registered social worker, educator, and mental health clinician. Jermaine brings over 20 years of experience supporting individuals, families, and communities. His work is rooted in empathy, equity, and anti racism, and he continues to advocate for better mental health access, especially within the Black community. But before we begin, just a quick reminder that this show is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not a substitute for therapy, counseling, or medical advice. If something comes up for you during this conversation, we encourage you to connect with a licensed mental health professional or reach out to local supports in your area. And as we name neurodivergence in this conversation, we also want to acknowledge that it is not a one size fits all experience. There is a wide spectrum, and not all experiences are disabling, even though support needs can vary. And as always, we want this to be a conversation. It's not just a broadcast. So guess what, family? The chat is open. The lines are open. You can call us at 437-778-3299. And if something resonates with you tonight, or if you just want to say hello, please, again, drop a question in the chat. Jermaine, welcome to the Mental Health Hour.
My friend.
Hey,
Hey,
brother.
Wagwan.
Hey,
Yes,
wagwan,
Wagwan.
wagwan, wagwan, wagwan. Oh my goodness. How are you?
Well, I'm doing okay. You know what? First of all, I just want to say I've been wanting to be on here from time, so I feel kind of honored to be here because you've had like a magnitude of excellent guests,
Thank
clinicians,
you.
professionals come through here. So just being here is an honor. So I thank you for the invite.
Oh, of course, we're gonna have you back another time,
Listen,
once.
I have another thing to talk about after this, but
Oh, yes. You hear that, Love Bay family? We have to bring back Jermaine. He already has another topic ready to go. Oh my goodness. Honestly, when you said yes, I was so happy because I know that you bring such a wealth and depth of knowledge. And yeah, you just shine. You walk into a room and you just brighten up the place. So come brighten up our global community tonight.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Again, thank you
You're
for having me. It's an honor. It's definitely an honor.
Oh, you're so welcome. And tonight's topic is honestly such a needed one because we don't talk about it enough. The
Mhm,
weight of care, dementia, neurodivergence, and the hidden toll of caregiving.
mhm.
Why does our Love Bay family need to be talking about this topic tonight?
So honestly, we need to talk about this because I'm gonna say that people who are caregivers, whether
Mm,
you're caring for people who have dementia or caring for somebody who is neurodivergent, particularly with autism and
mm.
ADHD, they're considered the invisible group.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
and for many reasons, you know, when you are a caregiver, it really drastically changes your life in ways that people couldn't even imagine. And
Mm,
this is the emotional toll, how it affects you in terms of your mental health,
Yes.
how you navigate grief. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And plus the financial costs.
Mm-hmm.
All plus also even the social isolation. We'll talk about that soon. But all
Yes.
these things kind of come to a head for many people who are considered caregivers.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so it is definitely one of those things where, and just to let people know, my background, I've worked with the Toronto School Board for now 20 plus years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 20 plus years. Most of the individuals, students, families that I work with are people who are neurodivergent.
Yes.
Also worked at Mount Sinai, our Sinai Health Systems in Toronto.
Mm.
I had the honor and the privilege to work with caregivers who are caring for those that have dementia.
Mm-hmm.
To
Yeah.
that. So it's been a lot of learning. It's been a lot
Mm-hmm.
of self-reflection. It's a lot of eye-opening things that I'm seeing and I'm hearing from people that have continued to experience this, and especially for us in the Black community, I think
Mm-hmm.
it's funny. It just brought a lot of things home for me, especially when it came to kind of looking back at
Mm-hmm.
things that I would see but would not get talked about.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think, especially particularly as a community, we need to have a lot more open discussions about this. We need to
Mm-hmm.
be a lot more accepting um,
Yes.
of people's stories and experiences when it comes to caregiving. And,
Yes.
and we hope that we can offer a bit more and tangible support. And on
Mm-hmm.
top, I could go off to a tangent in this respect, but one of the things that I do find very disappointing, but not totally surprising,
Mm-hmm.
is that
Yes.
there isn't enough data with regards to the Black experience when it comes to caregiving.
Yes. Yes.
And I find that's a major hole in terms of not just the research, but
Mm-hmm.
what are the strategies that can better support people who are caregivers.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Boy, you're just dropping all the dumpling one time. All right. Okay.
Okay.
Right. I'm just so happy that you brought it up because I think what you just did was to give us a brief overview of the complexity of this,
Mhm.
right? Because you have grief, you have, the different layers like the finances, the isolation, the stress,
Mhm.
um, and even the silence, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So, where do you want to start off with this? Because this diamond has a lot of cuts. So, where do you want to take it first?
All right, you know what? Let's kind of start off with so I'll probably kind of do in a couple of sections. Let's
Hmm.
start off with caregiving from a neurodivergent perspective.
Yes.
Now, let me kind of run it back a little bit.
Hmm.
The caregiving aspect is heavy.
Hmm.
Um, I will
Yes.
say that. So regardless if you know somebody who has Alzheimer's or dementia,
Yes.
if you know a parent or somebody that's caring for somebody that may have autism or
Mm-hmm.
extreme versus of ADHD,
Mm-hmm.
um, it's still hard.
Yes.
And I'll say it from this point of view. So I'll start with neurodivergence. So when we talk about neurodivergence, so that we're clear,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
we're basically talking about neurodivergent people are kind of like it's an umbrella term. I'm going to just say that
Yes.
it basically just describes the brain function
Mm-hmm.
compared to a typical neurotypical brain, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are neurodivergent, chances are you will have, autism, dyslexia. There
Mm-hmm.
is ADHD.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of put Oh my goodness, I forgot the term. Forgive me on this one.
Oh, that's
But
all right.
all these are examples of what neurodivergence is, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Now, how does that impact families? Well, so for people who have autism, which I commonly work with, right?
Yes.
If you
Yes.
have a child that's autistic, you have to look at some deficits that they may have. So
Mm-hmm.
everything from lack of communication, they don't have really great social cues. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they can be a little bit too rigid in terms of routine. And
Mm-hmm.
so if there are any changes that happen in their lives, you can kind of see where it can cause a lot of anxiety. And so
Mm-hmm.
see like um, some, for lack of a better word, extreme behaviors that can happen for people
Mm-hmm.
with autism. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and again, this can be very stressful for the parent because it's like, how do you now best communicate with your child, right?
Yes. Yes.
How do you manage the behaviors, right? How do
Mm-hmm.
you teach them to communicate as well?
Yes.
And so, what generally tends to happen for a lot of parents is that they're having to now deal with not just the stress of trying to figure out how to care for their child, but we
Mm-hmm.
have to also realize that, you know, there's a stigma. There is a heavy stigma for
Yes.
people who are neurodivergent, especially for autism.
Yeah.
So, you know, I see all the time where, parents are not really apt to having their kids, be in social settings, you know,
Mm-hmm.
even
Mm-hmm.
regular social settings in fear
Yeah.
that their child's behavior might explode and it becomes very embarrassing, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I used to do this too, where it's like, if a child has like a particular meltdown, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or acting very, very weird, like you see the eyes.
Yeah.
People are looking at the parent, looking at the child. It's like, what is this? You know,
Mm.
why can't you take control of your child? Well, the reality is that child is still trying to navigate their own sense of what the world is.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
And so these are the types of things that become very important. I mean, well, not just important, but very stressful, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's dive deeper. I mean, there is a huge financial cost when it comes to caring for somebody who is neurodivergent, similar to dementia. But I'm going to focus on
Mm-hmm.
neurodivergence for a second.
Yeah.
Well, as an example, depending on the
Mm-hmm.
severity of your child's neurodivergence, let's say autism, for example,
Yeah.
um, sometimes parents are forced to quit their jobs because
Mm.
they have to be on call for their care, like
Mm-hmm.
24/7.
Absolutely.
Imagine,
Absolutely.
you having to literally put your life
Mm-hmm.
on hold for the rest of your life to ensure that your
Mm-hmm.
child is taken care of and that your child is safe like that.
Mm-hmm.
And you're working extra hard to ensure that your child may or may not be able to acquire the level of independence that they need to be able to take care of themselves, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And if that's not bad, the worst part about it is that yes, there are therapeutic approaches to help the child.
Mm-hmm.
Those cost the same as if you're going to a university campus in
Mm.
the States.
Wow. Wow.
What I mean by that, and I'll give you
Yeah.
an example. This is where systemically this has really impacted a lot of caregivers.
Yeah.
The Ontario government, I live in
Mm-hmm.
Ontario, so
Mm-hmm.
context. So the Ontario government has this program called the Ontario Autism Program, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
The way it's supposed to be set up is that families and individuals will apply to get funding for much needed ABA therapy, speech and language
Mm-hmm.
therapy,
Mm-hmm.
behavioral therapy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Therapy per year cost on average between three, well, sorry, not three. Let's say about five to roughly around $10,000 per year.
Oh, wow.
okay,
Wow.
per year,
Just the therapy.
just for therapy.
Wow.
What's making it worse is that right now there's a waiting list
Mm,
in the tens of thousands. So even if, God forbid, that your child should get diagnosed with, you know, some sort of neurodivergent,
mm,
right?
mhm,
If you apply for the Ontario program, you're going to be on the waiting list. It may take several months. It may take years,
wow.
and that timing is very, very important because of
Yes.
the fact that as the child grows, the
Mhm.
longer that they don't get the support, it generally speaking, it does become a little bit worse.
Yeah.
It becomes a
Mhm.
lot harder to figure out how to support the child. And more
Mhm.
often than not, for parents, and I can say this because I work in the school board,
Yeah.
the supports for kids like that have become a lot less. Parents have thought, and maybe this used to be the case, you
Mhm.
know, there would be like at least maybe supports and resources,
Mhm.
psychological help, you know, to help a lot of these kids in school
Mhm.
who have been like defunded, if you will.
Mm.
What's happening is that where parents are expecting or maybe hoping that schools could support and and help parents with their kids who may have autism or ADHD.
Mhm.
The reality is that it's it's a lot less. Like
Wow.
you're fighting
Mhm.
if I have to be honest.
Yeah.
And this
Yeah.
puts so much pressure on parents in
Mm.
many ways.
Yeah.
Another thing that I try to find, I don't want to kind of ramble on this, but the other part when it comes to caregivers
Mhm.
neurodivergent perspective, and
Yeah.
I've actually seen this many times, depending on what culture that you come from,
Mhm.
sometimes what ends up happening is that women get the brunt of the blame
Yes.
why the child is the way they are.
Mm.
There are a lot of cultures that either don't know or don't believe in neurodivergence. And so
Mm.
what generally happens is that they don't really do anything to address the child's behavior, to address their social skills, their community
Mm.
skills. I tend to find, unfortunately, it becomes a little bit too late
Yeah.
by the time they realize, oh shoot, something's wrong. You know what I mean?
Mm. Yeah.
And that's a systemic issue. It's a huge
Mhm.
systemic and a huge support
Absolutely.
issue because at the end of the day, that child is having to navigate a world that has not really accepted them yet,
Mm.
and because of it,
Mm.
find a lot of kids, a lot of adults, um,
Mhm.
sometimes having to struggle through because society, for the most part, has not totally embraced this type of, well, I wouldn't call it disability, but
Mhm.
they have embraced this aspect of people when it comes to neuro,
Mhm.
if you will.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. So on one hand, you have, like you mentioned, the eyes watching. So even in like social experiences, like they're getting the looks when, there's particular behavior is presenting itself, right?
Mhm,
And
mhm.
then at the same time, there's all of these different systemic layers. So from like lack of funding and everything like that, right? So what is the impact on the mental health then?
Unfortunately, you have a lot of people that are going through a lot of depression.
Mhm.
And
Absolutely.
that's the typical situation because again, um, you end up socially isolated, right?
Mhm.
And you're having to, along with the social isolation, there's the financial cost. And
Mhm.
that impacts everything from trying to feed your
Yep.
children and
Yes.
yourself.
Yep.
Where are you going to stay, right?
Yes.
Who's going to help you when you need a respite? at least
Mhm.
maybe an hour break. Um,
Mhm.
Stuff like that. It's childcare, right?
Yeah.
These are very, very important things. And it's funny. It's funny you should mention this. So
Mhm.
I'll use this as an example. So at the school that I work at, there's a mom who has twins, right?
Yes. Mhm.
Um, both of them have like pretty severe autism, right?
Mhm.
What made it worse is that recently, the past few months, um, she realized, or they were both basically diagnosed also with epilepsy,
Oh,
right?
wow. Yeah.
Has another child that has Graves' disease,
Oh,
right?
boy.
And she would, lovely black woman, and she
Yeah.
was in, all positive and everything.
Yeah.
The point where like we did not see the mom or the kids for at least a good couple of months,
Mhm.
right? And we're just kind of wondering what's happening and all that type of stuff. So when the mom finally came, I saw her talking to one of my colleagues. I didn't really involve myself in the conversation.
Mhm.
They were having a conversation for at least about a good 5 minutes. And this is when
Yeah.
dropping off the kids to start the school, right?
Mhm.
Well, as soon as she left, my colleague was telling me that like she'd been going through it. Like she'd
Mm.
been going through it. And I'm pretty sure like she was dealing with like bouts of depression, you know, going through
Mhm.
the fact that you don't have much help
Mhm.
overall as much as you need to. Your
Mhm.
kids are going through not only just their medical issues, they're going through issues with it comes to their
Mhm.
developmental issues.
Mhm.
It's a lot for a parent, especially like if we're talking
100%.
a single mom, right?
Yeah, it's heavy.
Yeah, and this
Yeah.
is an example of that. There's also anxiety
Mhm. Yeah.
and grief on top of it, and
Yeah.
we'll kind of touch a little bit more on this a little bit later.
Yes.
But there's this thing that I've learned called um, ambiguous grief.
Mhm.
And when we talk about ambiguous grief, you're essentially talking about like the person that you are with is not dead, but
Mhm.
the essence of them or what they used to be is no longer there. And you kind of grieve over
Yes.
constantly.
Absolutely. Mhm.
Like, yes, they're still alive, but you're still grieving constantly about what you thought it was. You're grieving over what you're having to deal with. You're grieving over
Yeah.
the situation that you're in.
Mhm.
Like when you look at all these things, this impacts your mental health in so many ways than you think,
Absolutely.
and which can
Absolutely.
impact your physical health.
Mhm. Mhm. Absolutely. I thank you so much for sharing about, that person who was a single mom with the twins and really went through that hard time because I think you said something very interesting. You mentioned that she seemed like a very positive person and she was taking it well. And I think that this is where the high functioning depression comes in
Mhm,
because a lot of times, right,
mhm,
we
mhm,
are able to smile through it and we look like we're okay on the outside. We're still doing the things day to day, but
mhm,
we are struggling. We are afraid to really show how heavy it actually is. And it doesn't surprise me that she just disappeared. And then when she emerged, it was
mhm.
like, oh wow, she was depressed, right?
Yeah, and it's funny because, and again, I don't want to be typical, but I think for us in the Black community, you
Yeah.
know, this whole aspect of strong Black women and whatnot,
Mm-hmm.
um, it's I get it at the time you want to be empowering, but we have to really call a spade a spade. Like the
Mm-hmm.
reality is, for Black women, I can only imagine how many Black women have had to deal with high functioning depression
Yeah.
out of survival,
Mm-hmm.
out of trying their best to be present for their kids,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
even though they are disabled,
Yeah.
even though um, the person that, their parents, and I'm talking about neurodivergent,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you're having to care for them and be present for them and ensure that they're safe.
Yeah.
And so that requires so much sacrifice just to uphold someone else. It
Yes.
requires like almost like a piece of you. It feels like a piece of you is dying just to
Yes.
hold up somebody living.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing that when I see it, when I talk to people, I hear the stories. It's just very heart wrenching. It's very it's eye opening, and
Yeah.
it's something where I think this is why these conversations need to be had
100%.
because support is I think when a person who's a caregiver feels like they're getting support, they can feel like they can actually move on with
Yeah.
their lives, even though at times it has its difficulty. The worst
Absolutely.
the worst thing that anybody could have to deal with is deal with life alone.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. In the chat we have Diane Durson, who says, some feel guilty
Mm.
and blame themselves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You're dropping it.
Yep.
Right?
Um, you know what's funny? That's also another theme that they're having to caregivers are having to live with. It's this whole
Mhm.
feeling of regret and resentment. They drown.
Mm.
They're drowning in a sea of regret, the sea of guilt. It like from different levels, like
Yeah.
guilty asking for help when you really desperately need support,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But again, there's that fear where it's like I'm already being inconvenienced with my own caregiving duties.
Yeah.
I feel guilty to ask somebody else to help carry that burden because they
Mm.
know for a fact that it's hard, and to ask
Yes.
someone else to carry that, I
Mm.
find that a lot of that guilt is perpetrated
Mm.
through those lines of thinking.
Absolutely. Roxanne, how you doing, girl? Uh,
Absolutely.
sh- Rox- Roxanne Francis puts in the chat, people also feel guilty from holding that grief and that resentment simultaneously.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Right?
You know what? So let me kind of jump over to the dementia side of things because that tends to show itself up a lot.
Yes, absolutely.
I remember co-facilitating uh like a dementia therapy group.
Hmm.
And I remember this one lady in particular. What I mean, she was angry.
Hmm.
And again, we have to understand dementia again, it's a brain disease. Let's
100%.
So this is not a mental health condition, it's a
Yes.
brain disease, right?
Yes.
And so many things where she felt so much guilt and resentment. Like for example, there's part of her
Mhm.
in terms of the guilt of I'm obligated to
Mhm.
take care of my parents who are going,
Yes.
but I
Yes.
resent the fact that I'm put in this position,
Mm.
right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And again, the part of what we talk about when it comes to being a caregiver, when it comes to dementia, is that there's so many other things that sometimes can impact why it's hard for them to get the appropriate help that they need. So, for
Yeah.
example,
Mhm.
more often than not, when I hear from caregivers who are caring for people with dementia,
Mhm.
one of the most common things that they have trouble with is when it comes to long-term care facilities.
Mm. Mhm.
Because for us, we're thinking, okay, it's too much, put them to long-term care facility, right?
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Here's a couple of dynamics that people need to understand.
Yeah.
Right now, not a lot of people really have a lot of faith in these long-term care facilities.
No. No.
If And I say this because COVID, that whole pandemic really exposed the atrocities that were happening in these long-term care facilities. I
Yes.
mean, the abuse, people
Yep.
were dying,
Yes.
um, information about their loved ones was not transparent. They weren't forthcoming.
No.
And again,
Yeah.
we're talking about coming from a government that
Mm-hmm.
allowed for this to happen. There was really
100%.
no regulation as
Yeah.
to how these long-term care facilities are operated. And so
Yeah.
when COVID happened, right,
Yeah.
you got to see that there was a lack of staffing,
Yeah.
and part of that lack of staffing was lack of pay, right?
And lack of PPE.
And not just PE, not just the P,
PPE.
like,
PPE.
not only that, but people don't really talk about how sometimes there's a health and safety component. You know,
Yes.
a lot of the workers get hit. You
Yeah.
know, like they get punked, and for
Listen,
them, well,
my mama worked in long-term care
mhm,
facilities. In fact, Miss Diane Durson, I know, my sister. She also works with that population. And trust me, the fights that I hear,
mhm.
it is like I take if you are a nurse, if you
God bless
are,
you.
a PSW, I take my hat off to you
God
because
bless you all.
like God bless you because it is challenging.
Yeah. And that's
Yeah.
the thing. And ironically, like my mom was also a PSW as well, right?
Yes.
And so, there were some things that she would let me know. But again, I was young. I didn't really understand fully. But again, hearing the stories of, caregivers really being skeptical of actually placing their loved ones in a long-term care facility is a lot. And therefore
Yeah.
they would some of them would rather just like try to figure out ways to watch them, right?
Yeah.
And even if that's not the case, again, we're dealing with a situation where there's still a waiting list, right? Let's
Yeah.
not forget,
100%.
our government had decided
Mhm.
that if need be,
Mhm.
they could take a parent who lives in Brampton and send them to a long-term care facility, hypothetically, somewhere in Subway,
Yeah.
hypothetically.
Which is a different city or town in comparison. Yeah.
Yeah, and the inconvenience that
Mhm.
comes with that, it's just ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
And
100%.
so, when it comes to caregiving from that perspective, it
Mhm.
is a lot because you're dealing with the systemic issues that are there. You're dealing
Mhm.
with, again, the resentment and the guilt all at the same time. Again,
100%.
a lot of people who are caregivers are women
Mhm.
because of
Yeah.
they are having
100.
right, and
100.
because of
Yeah.
it, they are having to end up basically quitting their jobs
Mhm.
to be full time for their loved ones, right?
100%.
And then you look on top of it, where again, from a social aspect,
Mhm.
it's hard for even caregivers to even be outside and
Mm.
just to even go to the grocery store.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not easy.
No.
And imagine like you want to be around friends and family, and you do have some that can support, but the general consensus is that it's
Mm.
hard to like even be sociable because especially with
Yeah.
loved ones
Mhm.
because you don't know how their behavior is going to be, and then
Yes.
to how people are going to look at you
Yep.
and people looking at the parents.
100%. Roxanne Francis says there's the sense that if they need a break or feel burdened, it means that they don't love the person, right? So
Yep.
just even going out for lunch is just like, why do I even need a break?
Yep.
But there is actually caregiver burnout. Like you
Yep.
can actually burn out.
Yeah. And once you reach that stage of burnout, again,
Hmm.
other health issues come out of it. You're looking at a situation where you're not getting enough rest, you're irritable, your mood is low,
Hmm.
right? Fall easily into depression.
Hmm.
Um, there's a lot of anxiety because you have to worry about the safety of your loved one who has dementia.
Yeah.
I'll give you one example. This just popped up in my mind. So
Mhm.
again, working in these groups, I remember some patients talk about how like they had a dad who basically would get up in the middle of the night
Mm.
because they believe that they have to go to work,
Mm. Yeah.
right? Um,
Yeah.
and sometimes they, unless you have like certain security that's there, sometimes you wouldn't realize that they got up and they just left.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and they think they know where they're going, but then they realize they don't know which direction they're going to. They
Yeah.
find themselves, in places that they feel that they've never been. Uh,
Mm.
and you see it in the news when you hear, say, an elderly person that has gone missing. There's a good chance that they're dealing with
Mhm.
early onset dementia, Alzheimer's, and so
Yeah,
their safety is paramount right now.
absolutely.
And you can only imagine as a caregiver how stressful that is, not
Mhm.
knowing where your loved ones have gone.
100%. You are listening to the Mental Health Hour on Love Bay Afrobeat Music and Talk Radio. Please
Mm.
like, share, comment, and subscribe. Download our apps from the Apple App Store or Google Play. Visit our website to donate. Your support helps us continue serving you, our community. And we want to hear from you. Call us at 437-778-3299. The chat is live, it is open, the lines are open. If something in this conversation resonates with you tonight, lean into it. Caregiving can feel heavy and sometimes isolating, but you don't have to hold this alone. Add your voice, share your perspective. You're not alone in this. We're here serving you 24/7.
Mhm.
Yes, Jermaine, it is so, so heavy. Um, even as you were talking, I was thinking about, the fact that there's so many different aspects of this as well, because some things that I've come across as well is those that are caregivers, they
Mhm.
find that, obviously getting older is challenging. And
Yep.
sometimes parents who are elderly still want to maintain a certain sense of autonomy as well. And then there's also friction between, you
Yep.
know, the parents and the child who's trying to take care of their parents. And it creates a tension and a very strange family dynamic where, there might be pushback or frustration. Can you talk a little bit about that as well and that aspect of caregiving?
Yeah, it's very, very typical, and it kind of goes
Mhm.
back to what I talked about when it comes to caring for people with dementia.
Mm,
So first of all, like typically speaking, right?
mhm,
You know, if a person hears that they may be suffering with dementia, there is definitely a denial. Like not
mhm,
very often where you see people like come to accept it, right? There is a denial. And
mhm,
so you kind of see where they will kind of do everything they can to capture their independence. Like, I'm
mhm,
fine, I'll be able
mhm.
to drive by myself, you
Yeah.
know,
Mhm,
I want to go see my friends, right?
mhm,
And so for that person, it becomes very frustrating because they still want to live as if they don't have any conditions at all.
mhm,
But to the caregiver, now they become hypervigilant.
mhm,
And this is where the conflict happens.
mhm,
I have actually, it's funny, I have a client of mine who, who I do therapy with.
mhm.
She talked about a lot of the times where her mom, right, for example,
Yeah.
she has a place in Toronto somewhere, and um, trying to basically get her out of well, not even, sorry, let me backtrack. One of the issues is that she did not want to leave her house. The
Yeah.
mom didn't want to leave her house, right?
Mhm,
And so the arguments were going back and forth and all that type of stuff. It was tough.
mm.
It was tough.
Yes.
And so as a caregiver, you can't
Mm,
go there and just like bulldoze your way into this because
mhm,
once they again once like that person with dementia,
Mm-hmm.
they dig in their heels. It's never.
Mm.
Uh,
Yes.
sometimes what happens is that you have to kind of almost like redirect and
Yeah.
allow things to kind of play out, so to speak, uh,
Mm.
just so that just so that yeah, you have to allow things to play out just so that like there's like safety and just the
Yes.
opportunity to um it gives the opportunity for like that person with dementia to actually get into a facility that's more conducive for them. Uh,
Yes.
at the end of the day, um, it took a while, but it seems like that well, the person who has dementia is in a better facility.
Yeah.
She's definitely getting the support that she needs, and
Mm-hmm.
it does help. But is there conflict or is there tension? Yeah, there is, and it typically
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And what would you say to caregivers that are finding themselves with this tension and they don't really know how to navigate it with their parents? Because I think from what I've seen and even help my own clients navigate through is that
Mhm.
you know it is a life stage change for our parents when they get
Mhm.
older, and giving up particular parts of that autonomy that you once felt
Mhm.
can be hard, especially as your body and you maybe sometimes even your cognitive capacity changes.
Yeah.
And, you know, having a desire to want to help, but when your parents fight back against it, and then there's a whole cultural piece with like the respect, and then it
Mhm.
becomes really muddy and mucky. Like, how does someone navigate through all of that?
I think so one of the things is it's going to boil down to communication, how you communicate, right? Um
Mm-hmm.
what I would say, and the best way to kind of receive support when you're not totally too sure how to communicate with somebody with dementia,
Mm-hmm.
there are resources from the Alzheimer's Society. They actually put up like recent, more culturally appropriate
Mm-hmm.
material um, that will be helpful. And they have like different strategies that can help somebody who may have dementia or Alzheimer's. Usually, you want to not sort of like, no, you can't do that. No, you can't do that. Sometimes you
Mm-hmm.
have to kind of address the language in a way that um, it's almost like you're redirecting, if that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to use the type of language that's more redirecting. Like,
Mm-hmm.
for example, where it's like, well, I don't want to leave the house because I feel like, somebody's going to break in and take
Mm-hmm.
all my cats away. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
No, you can be like, you know what, the cats are still here, and we're
Yeah.
going to make sure that they're kept safe and all that, you know,
Mm-hmm.
instead of, well, you need to leave. No, we can't use that language, right?
Yeah.
Because we have to understand that during those moments, a person with dementia or Alzheimer's, they're emotionally heightened.
Yes. Yes.
And so everything has to be about de escalation. You
Yes.
have to reassure, you have to massage it through. You
Mm-hmm.
have to ensure that you use language that is direct,
Mm-hmm.
but at least it adds some respect to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that
Mm-hmm.
person does feel like, hey, you're not an adversary, right? We're not
Yeah.
we're not here to kidnap you.
Yes. And I think a big part of what you're saying is really co-regulation, right? Like when we can um, have this particular sense of just calm,
Mhm.
um, it does help to de-escalate, even though
Yeah.
it's not easy. But because in the moment, like you were talking about, like a cat, right? Like
Mhm.
the cat is very real to them in the moment, right?
Mhm.
And so it's just a matter, like I love that you talked about redirecting as
Yeah.
well.
A lot of the times, not to belabor the point, but it's like you can probably say,
Mhm.
you know what, the cat can come with you. Like
Yeah,
we're not taking the cat from you. If you need the
yeah,
cat by your side, you know what, we're gonna go. And
yeah.
again, you have to give time, right?
Yes, yes.
Um, things do take time.
Mhm.
And so it's going to be important to at least be able to communicate differently. And I'm going to go back to some of the supports that are out there actually. So they
Mm.
have carers groups out there across Ontario, believe it or not.
Mm.
And these groups are specifically designed to both problem solve when
Mm.
things come up. It is a great group in that like you are dealing with other caregivers as well. So
Mhm.
you're kind of problem solving together what could help in different situations, right?
Yes. Mhm.
And certain hospitals can do this. I know Mount Sinai in Toronto has cares groups. The Alzheimer's Society of Ontario, specifically Toronto, has different sites,
Mhm.
uh, and you can do this in person or virtually. So there are
Mm.
ways. There are ways.
Yes. Oh, that's amazing. We have some more messages in the chat, and I don't want to pass them by.
Yeah, that's fine.
So we have a message from I am Trisha Walters. Thank you, Trisha, for writing
Yes,
in. She says, there is so much that resonated with three kids with different degrees of neurodivergence, and now
Mhm.
about to become a caregiver to a parent with onset of
Ooh,
dementia. This whole conversation gives me hope. There is a new language I feel I need a tutor for.
yeah, that's again, this is why conversations like these are very, very important.
Yes.
Because imagine you one are having to hold all this up
Mm-hmm.
and how that impacts um it impacts you as a person, right?
Yes.
And everything again, you're still trying to cling on to life, if you will. You're still trying to
Mm-hmm.
move forward with your life, but now it's a situation where you're trying to basically juggle all these things at the same time.
Yeah.
And this is why when we have these conversations, it
Yes.
needs to allow better support overall,
Yeah.
even as a community to those who are caregivers, because they shouldn't have to feel isolated.
Yeah.
They shouldn't have to feel like they're doing life alone. They
Yeah.
should be able to feel comfortable to even ask for help.
Mm.
And that's the one thing, or I wouldn't say the one thing, but that's one of the main things that's important to have these conversations because
Yes.
they're out there. They are out there.
100%. 100%. Why do you think we hesitate? Why do we hesitate to ask for help? I know that's tricky and sticky and nuanced, but why don't we ask for help?
I think so again, I'm going to let me talk to us as black people. Okay. The reality is that we have maybe up until recently
Hmm.
started to now accept the conversation about mental health and developmental issues.
Yes.
Prior to that, we have swept it under the rug so
Hmm.
badly.
Yeah.
And so and this is how it looks like because sometimes what happens is that you're in a conversation with
Hmm.
maybe a group of people or with somebody and they have a negative view of people who have kids that seem to be out of control
Mm.
and they're not doing anything about it, right?
Yeah.
When whole time you're that same parent that
Mm.
navigate an issue with their child.
Hmm.
And so like even asking for support is hard because you're afraid of getting some sort of negative feedback, you know,
Mm.
or some sort of blame. Again, culturally
Yes.
speaking,
Hmm.
women unfortunately do take the brunt of it for whatever reason, right?
Mm.
Um, you feel like you're broken, something's wrong with you,
Hmm.
right? And I hear this quite often. I
Hmm.
think another reason why it doesn't really get talked about, part of it is because, again, where are the resources for us? Where do
Yeah.
we go? Right? Like, I've it's funny. I actually one of my projects when I was working at Mount Sinai was to look for different adult day programs.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody
Yes.
knows what adult day program is. Basically, an agency or program specifically designed to support seniors and people who may have dementia, Alzheimer's. They're
Mm-hmm.
great. It's
Mm-hmm.
costly. There's a cost to it, but it's great when it comes to respite care.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of adult day programs that can cater
Mm-hmm.
to different languages, anywhere from like Cantonese, Mandarin, Yiddish, Russian,
Mm-hmm.
French.
Mm-hmm.
But not one do I see that is catered to the Black experience.
Mm.
That ought to tell you something right there.
Yeah.
There
Yep.
isn't really any adult day programs that have like specifically designed cultural programs for the Black and African experience.
Mm.
So we can't. It's hard to ask for help when there really isn't like somewhere to go to get the help,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And again, this comes back to lack of resources,
Mm-hmm.
research on top of it,
Yep.
because again, if we had even the research, say, even like 20 years ago, right,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
there would have been a better chance for programs to be set up,
Yes.
strategies to be met.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're kind of dealing with um, grassroots things here or there, uh,
Yes.
but really for the most part, there
Mm-hmm.
isn't anything that is for and by the Black community.
Mm.
So if you want to talk about like why, these are some of the reasons why this tends to happen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Until we as a collective really start digging into the numbers and really have these
Yes.
conversations, then it's
Yes.
kind of hard for us as the Black community to get the resources, right? Get the support that's needed to walk through this.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I see in the chat here, Talk the Tings. The Chance Center in Brampton, Ontario is doing amazing things for programming for racialized young adults. So if
Mm,
you need that resource, please take advantage of it. The Chance Center in Brampton, Ontario.
yep.
I'm Trisha Walters mentioned. I have said I feel broken so many times. Thank you
Mm.
so much for sharing.
Thank you for your vulnerability. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's not easy. Um, and Diane Durson says caregivers don't know that they need to plan ahead. They need to be educated,
Mhm.
especially older caregivers.
Yeah. And this is why like some of the groups are important. So okay,
Mm,
let's stick with the dementia care support. So one of
mm,
the biggest things I would tell people is that anyhow, you have somebody, a parent, or a family member that has dementia, power
mhm.
is definitely important. Okay.
Power of attorney is important. You hear that, Love
Yeah.
Bit? All right.
Power of attorney is greatly important. I'm talking about
Mhm.
power of attorney from a financial perspective, power of attorney when it comes to just house and estate planning.
Yeah.
These are very, very important discussions that you need to have, especially
Yes.
with a lawyer,
Hmm.
because you still have to ensure that the finances of, the person that has dementia or
Hmm.
Alzheimer's is taken care of.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, like you're finding yourself in a world of hurt, right?
Mm,
That's one of it. Two, I can tell you that if you can within your family at least come together and organize things. And let
yes.
me just kind of say this. We cannot have like our own selfish perspective on this. You cannot
Mm,
like if your mother is going through some sort of issue where her health is declining,
yes.
seek the help quickly. Do not delay.
Mm-hmm.
Do not deny it because you're putting
Yes.
more pressure on the one or two that have
Mm-hmm.
to take care of their loved one, and it's not good.
We actually have another question in the chat. What are
Mhm.
some early signs that someone's health is declining, even if they don't realize it yet?
Okay, so when it comes to dementia specifically, right? You want to look at a couple of things. So you want to look at now. People always talk about memory, but there's kind of like layers to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about like say it's for okay. So for example,
Mm-hmm.
if a person say sometimes forgets their keys,
Yes.
that doesn't necessarily mean that they have dementia.
Mm-hmm.
However, if they are basically constantly trying to open their keys in the wrong car, that might be.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Or it could be a situation where the route that they would normally go to, let's say if they're trying to go get something from No Frills and they know the route, it's literally like a 2 to 5 minute drive.
Mm-hmm.
Know how to get there, but all of a sudden there's a lot of confusion and they start missing No Frills, like
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
right.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably a sign.
Yeah.
Some of the other things that you want to watch out for when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to dementia is, and they talk about this, has the person got adequate amount of sleep, right?
Mm-hmm.
Lack of sleep can increase the likelihood of dementia. Diabetes
Mm-hmm.
will play a big factor as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to kind of
Yeah.
ensure that those things are addressed and dealt with.
Absolutely.
And then you have to also look at sometimes erratic behavior, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Erratic behavior can also be a telltale sign that
Yeah.
with early onset or dementia, and there's
Mhm.
different types of dementia. There's
Yeah.
different Alzheimer's. So it's best that any of those things happen, go see
Mhm.
a doctor quickly so that you
Yes.
can run the tests. You
Mhm.
have to see a specialist, but
Yes.
do this quickly so that you at least have a way to both treat it and also better prepare yourself.
Yes. Absolutely. And yes, in the chat, this is such useful information. Remember also to consult with your doctor for more information and for a thorough assessment for your loved one. Do it before you need it with regards to,
Do it
preparing.
before you need it. Do it
Do it
before
before
you
you
need it.
need it, right?
That's the line of the night. Do it before we need it.
Right? Yes, 100%. I was wondering if we could dig a little bit deeper into the grief that comes behind it
Oh,
because,
uh,
when someone forgets your name,
yeah, yeah.
like
It's
I worked with someone who they when by the time their loved one had actually passed on, they're
mhm,
like, I felt they mentioned I felt like I've already like grieved them.
mhm,
So it wasn't as hard for them because the person they knew,
mhm,
right,
yeah.
was already gone. And so there's a grieving process as you were mentioning before as you go through the caregiving. But how
Yeah.
do you grapple with that pain?
Yeah, it's hard. Because again, I talked about ambiguous. I said ambiguous grief, but the real term is ambiguous loss. And ambiguous loss is a constant grief of of somebody who used to be what they were, right? You're seeing the decline of a person that used to be aware, but now they don't know where they are. They don't know who you are. Sometimes there's this term which they call sundowning, which is a term that
Mm,
kind of describes symptoms where their confusion increases,
mm,
there's more agitation, there's more
mhm.
forgetfulness. It's basically going like there's a cognitive slide, and then when you
Yeah,
slide down, it just goes down faster, right?
yes.
And so for the person that is having to
Mm,
constantly adjust to the behaviors
yeah.
and even to the reality that the person that's before them is basically dying in front of them,
Mm,
right? It's tough because
yeah,
it's a slow death.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And
yeah.
sometimes that's I don't want to compare, but sometimes that can really feel like the worst torture ever,
Yeah.
because you're holding up somebody knowing, even though there's could be hope of some sort of turnaround,
Yeah.
but in the back of your head, you know that they're going to go.
Mm-hmm.
And for that person, it becomes such a grieving process. It's so hard emotionally,
Mm-hmm.
impacts us mentally. Again, this comes back to the reason why, you know, these type of things can lead to burnout,
Yes.
which burnout can lead to depression,
Yes.
can
Yes.
lead to anxiety. You see, it can actually also lead to substance abuse as well.
Yep. So because you want to cope with the pain, right?
Exactly. Like many
Mm-hmm.
people, many clients that I've talked to in different respects have, gone to alcoholism, for example.
Mm-hmm.
They're just trying to cope with the reality that this, not only that this is their life, but
Yeah.
they're having to deal with the reality that the person in front of them is declining at a pretty consistent pace.
Absolutely.
Mm.
And as you were talking, I was actually thinking, even on the flip side, if someone's been diagnosed with dementia or Alzheimer's,
Mhm.
is what is the grieving process of that, knowing that you may not remember your loved ones anymore?
It's a little bit tricky because I think there's an awareness, and you're fighting to hold on to the memories.
Mm.
Again, with this brain disease, it feels like, you know what it feels like.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna use this as an example. If
Yes.
you ever watch the Avengers,
Mm-hmm.
Endgame, where
Yep.
Thanos, like at the end, he starts turning into dust.
Yep.
That's basically kind of that's possibly the experience for a lot of people that are having to deal with dementia, because the deterioration is like the dust,
Wow.
like starting to go right
Wow.
off to the wind. And so, you
It's a
know,
powerful imagery.
and so what essentially happens is that they'll remember some things, right?
Yeah.
Um, and they'll hold on to some,
Mm.
but their brain will kind of get them in different places. I'm not saying it's all bad, because sometimes,
Mm.
for them, they've just entered into a new world in their mind,
Mm.
a world that a lot of us could never understand.
Yeah.
Um, but it's what they're experiencing, at least for the time that they're going to be alive.
Mm.
Yeah. So that's kind of what it boils down to, if that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense. Lots of sense. Dollar, dollar. Well, if you could drop any last gems on our community tonight, because I feel like you have such a wealth of knowledge, and it's a real blessing to get this knowledge in such a compassionate way. What what would you like to leave with us, if you could leave anything else with us tonight?
Um, I think a lot of us know at least one person that's a caregiver,
Mm.
and I don't think people understand how impactful it is
Mm-hmm.
to at least go in and do a check-in, offer, whatever support you can. You
Yeah.
know, sometimes there are caregivers that are just fighting to get an hour of
Yes.
their time every day.
Yes.
And so being available and supportive in that way does more of a difference than most people think.
Absolutely.
Caregivers are having to sit by themselves in silence.
Mm-hmm.
Much of it is stigma, much of it's embarrassment, much
Mm-hmm.
of it is lack of support and resources.
Mm-hmm.
And so being available,
Yeah.
or showing some sort of care, uh,
Mm.
that person, even if it's like once a week or whatever,
Yeah,
does such a huge difference for that caregiver in ways
absolutely.
they wouldn't do because they have to carry this alone.
Yes.
And it's gonna be important that
Mhm.
caregivers feel like they're still a part of society. That if they have a child or children that are neurodivergent, they
Mhm.
too are a part of society and they need to also be shown love and care.
Yes.
Somebody that has dementia, they may not understand a whole lot that's going on, but just
Mhm.
available to care and to be present. Things like
Yeah,
that make a huge difference.
absolutely.
And I think as a Black community, we need to do more to speak up with and for people who are caregivers so that there can be much better appropriate supports for them.
Mhm. Mhm.
So
Absolutely.
I'll leave it at that.
Wow. And if someone offers you the hour, Love Bay family, take the hour.
Take the hour. Okay.
Take take the hour. You're
This
not
is
you're not lazy. You're
mhm.
still a good caregiver.
Yep.
Put down the guilt. Put
Yep.
down the shame. Put down the pride.
Listen,
And just take the hour.
listen, take it before you need it.
Yeah. Say that again.
I don't know, because somebody said this, and I want to go back to that line. That line was just bad.
Mm,
I'm trying to remember what that line was, but it was something along the lines of take it before you need it.
yeah, I like that. Take it before you need it.
Hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? Wow. So,
Hmm.
as we come to the end of tonight's episode, I want to take a moment to acknowledge something. Caregiving is often seen, but the weight of caregiving, the emotional labor, the identity shifts, the quiet sacrifices, this often goes unseen. And to those who are carrying the weight, we see you, we honor you, and you deserve support too. Jermaine, thank you for your insight, your honesty, and for helping us name what so many people are experiencing behind the scenes. And to everyone who tuned in tonight, thank you for being part of the conversation and being a part of this community. Now, before we go, I want to invite you into next week's conversation. We're continuing our Real Talk series with Bring Your Whole Self, but Not That Self, the Workplace Live Part 2. Because guess what? Part 1 was not enough. And this time, we're going deeper. We're talking about what it means to show up as a professional while carrying things that aren't always safe or even possible to bring into the room. The realities that many women are navigating quietly, whether it's emotional abuse, financial control, intimate partner violence, survival mode. What does bring your whole self really mean when parts of you are still trying to stay safe? This is a conversation about what's carried, what's hidden, and what it costs to keep it all together. You don't want to miss this one. Same time, same place, next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So until then, this is Felicia Fishoff, and you've been listening to the Mental Health Hour on Love Bay, Afrobeat Music, and Talk Radio. Take care of yourselves and each other. Peace out.